Welcome to the Timeline Rewatch, where we cover all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, shows, one-shots, and shorts in chronological order. This week we have Captain America: The Winter Soldier, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, starring Chris Evans, Samuel L. Jackson, and Scarlett Johansson. The release date was April 4th, 2014, and interesting enough, the timeline date is pretty on point, covering March 31st to April 4th, 2014. So this movie actually came out the day it was the last day of the movie, interestingly enough. As always, my name is Justin, here with my co-host, Jacob. Jacob, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing pretty good. We have beautiful weather outside. Get to talk about some movies that, at least for Captain America: The Winter Soldier, was shot in much colder weather. So glad to see what's not that. But I think that's interesting what you talked about with the movie, because I think sometimes that gets lost, is like the actual time that the movie, or time that elapses during the movie, and the fact that it came out and then the movie ended on that date, and it's like you're just watching like the last 3 or 4 days of events. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So I have a couple of different things that we're going to add to the beginning of the show instead of just straight up through the timeline. There were a couple. Let's start with my new segment, 5 fun facts about this movie. So Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson wrote their own dialogue for several scenes they had together in this movie.
You know, that doesn't shock me, because it felt very, like, even though it's all supposed to feel natural, but
it seemed like a genuine
it felt like an actual conversation, and not.
They had a lot of scenes together in this movie too. Yeah. So Cap's new costume, his new suit, Cap's new suit takes cues from the super soldier outfit that he wore as when he served as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the comics.
Oh.
So like that dark super suit and everything. Yeah. That's from the comics when he was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay. And I think progressively through the movies it gets darker, because I remember like in Civil War and even Infinity War, I think he's in like
it's like almost all black.
Yeah.
So in an attempt to prevent spoilers and keep secrecy, the working title of this movie while filming was actually called Freezer Burn.
Oh, because if you say Captain America: Winter Soldier, you pretty much know if you read the comics what's gonna happen. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Kevin Feige. It's Feige, right? Yeah. Kevin Feige selected Joe and Anthony Russo to direct the film on the basis of their 2 back-to-back episodes of Community in 2009 that they directed. Which Feige said he was impressed. They did season 2, episode 23 and 24, which were the 2 paintball episodes of that season.
Oh, those were great.
Which were like really cool cinematically. Like it was just a good like directed TV. Like when I was reading this, I was like, oh my god, those were 2 really, really good episodes.
Well, that's funny, because when towards the end of this movie, when Captain America and his team re-breaches S.H.I.E.L.D. and they go to the command center, one of the guys plays a character in Community, and I cannot remember his name. It's the Indian guy.
Yeah, Abed.
Abed, yes.
Abed, yep.
Yes, the guy that plays Abed is in this movie.
I would not be surprised that's why he's in this movie. But just think about it, like, you go from directing Community, then you get your biggest break by doing Captain America, which then leads you to the Avengers and being part of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And then the last one I have here, Michael B. Jordan read for the role of Falcon, but then he later goes and plays Eric Killmonger in Black Panther.
Ooh, imagine what that would have been.
He could have been Falcon instead.
Yeah.
I think he had a good role as Killmonger.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have him in the universe more than just that one movie. But
yeah. I think he fit the role of Killmonger more than he did the role of Falcon. But
Anthony Mackie does a great job as Falcon. Yeah. So, and I was also reading, Anthony Mackie was like completely giddy that he got this role to like be one of the first, other than Nick Fury, like one of the first black men in the Marvel Universe, and to be a superhero for young kids. He actually wanted to wear the red like spandex suit that he wears in the comics, but they went with more of like the military personnel type of route.
That
which
makes
fits
sense.
This movie more.
It does, yeah. But that's really cool, because later on the Captain America or Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of series movie is mostly about him wanting to be a role model.
Yeah.
And trying to still live up his community and be a good representative of their side. That's really cool. I like that. And plus, with all that Michael B. Jordan's been in now with all the Creed movies and everything, having to do all of this other things with the Falcon on top of that would have been a lot.
That'd have been a lot.
Yeah.
That's what you get paid for, though.
Yeah. I mean, would have been in a lot of movies. So
quick recap. What you got?
Yes. I want to say Old Faces, New Places with the Winter Soldier coming back and having to go through that identity crisis. Well, if you can't get that from the title, then I can't help you anymore. So,
yeah, no, I mean that's pretty spot on. I was gonna say 70s spy movie with with superheroes in it.
Yeah, this I know I've mentioned it before, but the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series does this part. I mean, they go into so much more detail. Like,
of course,
this movie kicks off like the downfall of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the rise of Hydra, but the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, like, it focuses on the boots on the ground kind of thing, and it's really cool how it plays well with this.
Yeah, I know. A few episodes ago, I mentioned that I didn't really like the Winter Soldier I didn't really like the Captain America series, even though he's my favorite superhero. I forgot how much I actually like this movie.
I really like this movie.
This is probably one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And so far that we've watched. Some of my actual favorite ones are coming up here soon.
Yeah.
For various reasons, and we'll talk about those next week when we get to Guardians of the Galaxy. But so major plot points for this movie include Steve Rogers and Black Widow finds that Hydra has infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. For years and is actually planning on a mass murder to eliminate all potential threats on Earth with Project Insight. We get the introduction to the Falcon, which is Sam Wilson. Fury, quote unquote, dies and then goes on the run, and Black Widow releases all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secrets to the world.
Yeah.
And that's the episode. All right, so catch us next. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's actually dive into this movie. I did find an oops within literally the first probably 30 seconds of the film.
Okay.
But you don't actually realize it until probably halfway through the film. The Triskelion, the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s HQ, it's located in Washington, D.C. It's described as having at least 41 floors, which is probably well over 400 feet tall. But the Height of Buildings Act in 1910 prohibits buildings over 130 feet tall within the D.C. city limits. You have to do a little digging. I found that on the internet. I found it fascinating. Also, another aspect of this, if it was so tall, in that first opening credit scene where you basically have the whole like panorama of DC, why can't you see it in the background?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know if they count the floors even in the basement though, because I know like Fury took Captain America way down to see the ships being built.
Yeah,
so
it probably goes 100 stories down.
Yeah.
So
it
just seems taller too, but
it does. I think especially you get the perspective when Captain America's riding away on his motorcycle and you can see it in the background.
Yeah.
It looks really tall there.
Yeah. All right, so the movie kicks off with On Your Left. That's how Steve really meets Sam Wilson. And then Sam mentioned something about how he just ran 13 miles in like 26 minutes or something like that. And Steve just jokes, is like, oh, it's a slow morning.
Yeah.
I really like the comment of, why don't you run another one, just for that comment. I assume you just ran another one. I didn't see you. That was pretty. It reminded me of the episode of SpongeBob SquarePants where he was like, "I just ran like a lap around the world. You want to see me do it again?" And just jerks a little bit. Yeah.
No, I thought they instantly played off each other very well.
Yeah.
Like that whole repartee and it was really set up to be that's the first time they met. And then like they just hit it right off from the get-go.
Yeah.
So
So Sam ends up giving Steve a suggestion on how to catch up. This is actually, I think he actually gives the wrong soundtrack from
from Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, he gives Trouble Man, which I think it was actually supposed to be the soundtrack either before or after that one. That actually Trouble Man, I guess, is like mostly doesn't really have much lyrics in it.
Oh, okay.
But I did know all the things that were in his book,
yes,
including I Love Lucy, moon landing, the Berlin Wall up and down, Steve Jobs, and then had Apple beside it, which actually comes back into this movie. Disco, Thai food, Star Wars / Trek. Star Wars is already crossed out. Nirvana, which was a band, Rocky and Rocky 2 ? And then Trouble Man soundtrack. And another fun fact about this one, the contents of Steve's notebook on things to catch up on differ based on where the movie was released. So like when it was released in Italy, it added Roberto Bennigan. Latin America has Shakira on it, and then Russia had Yuri Gagarin, which was the first man in space.
Okay.
So they added a couple of like pop culture things to that area, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's interesting. I thought it was interesting that Under Armour was the sponsor for at least their shirts or their apparel, and I was trying to think back. I was like, during that time, I was like, I don't think Under Armour was any bigger than it is now. So
2014. Under Armour actually was pretty big then.
Okay.
My high school was sponsored by Under Armour around that time.
Gotcha.
They had a huge sponsor for Under Armour, actually.
Okay.
I guess that's just the level of school I have where we get sponsored by Adidas.
Like when I think of a sports fitness brand, I was like, Nike would have been my first thought.
Yeah, but, of course.
So now I'm just gonna pay attention and see how much they play that through.
It's interesting that you say that right here, because this was actually the first movie where they had product placement in.
Oh,
and Chevy was the product placement for this movie, including this scene right here where Black Widow comes up in her Camaro. But they also have the truck that they quote unquote borrow.
Yeah.
And they have several other vehicles. Sam Wilson's car is also is a Chevy. Everything in this movie is a Chevy.
That's funny because I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. it's a different car company. It's like Audi or something. So at least the S.H.I.E.L.D. vehicles are Audis. So
yeah. Okay, so the next scene after this, they're in the Indian Ocean. Where they have a mission to rescue Agent Sitwell and other S.H.I.E.L.D. members. Captain's wondering why is S.H.I.E.L.D. in waters that they're not supposed to be in. Which really kicks off the what's up with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
I noted, I actually counted, Captain America took out 17 people before Rumlow comes in and shoots the final one saying you looked helpless.
Yep.
I thought that was funny. Yeah. This is where we finally actually see his first the uniform being different.
Yes.
As well. So
yep.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting when Captain America is fighting the leader of the French pirate group. I almost wonder if that guy was somewhat of a super soldier, the way he was able to kind of hang with Cap there for a minute. And
I thought the same thing because I thought that the first time, and then I rewatched it again this morning just while I was cleaning and stuff, and I was like, is he a super soldier?
Right.
Like, I don't, because he seemes like a super soldier.
He does. And
put up a good fight.
Seeing other movies later, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I talked about, and seeing those super soldiers and like Crossbones coming up, like I feel like he could be a super soldier, and obviously other countries have experimented with it. So.
Yeah. So during this whole movie, Black Widow's actual mission was to download the intel off the ship, which was the whole reason why they were out there. Of course, Steve gets upset about that and goes and tells Fury how he's pretty much mad. So Fury goes to show him Project Insight. He doesn't have the security clearance, but he overrides that security clearance. The elevator scene going down to Project Insight. Nick Fury talks about how his grandfather was an elevator operator. This is actually a play-in because Samuel L. Jackson's actual grandfather was a elevator operator.
Oh, that's cool.
So he actually got to talk about a real-life story.
I wondered about that because it felt very personal in the way he was talking about it. I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if that actually happened.
Yeah, he actually put a lot of stuff in this movie. There was a quote he had about this movie, Samuel L. Jackson did. Other than this scene, I think he said like 90 to 95% of the things that Nick Fury says in this movie is a lie.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's fun. Well, speaking of lies, so right before they got in that elevator, when him and Cap are having a conversation, I noted this. Fury mentioned that the last time he trusted someone is how he lost his eye. And I
Yes.
was like, but like, and then knowing that we've watched Captain Marvel and discussed
Right.
it, I was like, it's not that his like trust in Captain Marvel scratched his eye. Like, it was the cat just at the end of the movie.
Maybe he
Like,
trusted Goose not to scratch his eye.
I mean, I guess when he was scratched, he didn't know he was a flurkin yet.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I feel like, but again, with the lying, he could have just said that to just to hide, to hide it. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Having now seen Captain Marvel and knowing when he gets his eye scratched, it's like, well, that didn't make sense to me. But and then during their conversation, once they go down to the basement, I guess, and see those helicarriers, when Cap's talking about like punishment coming after the crime, where Fury's trying to say like, no, we're trying to prevent crime, and then Cap's like, why? By holding a gun to everybody and calling it protection. I was like, that's very hot button topics even today. Like, so I really like how in almost all these Marvel movies they hit on like actual topics in today's society. So it didn't last long, but I thought it was a very interesting discussion they had there.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Project Insight, or they're down there talking about Project Insight, and they mentioned that it can take out 1,000 targets per minute, and was built because of the Battle of New York, which I could understand that.
Sure.
Alien invasion, you want to have something that could easily come out and kill all of the aliens quickly, but the intent is there. I get it. The execution of it, however, is very Hydra, which...
And I think coming from Cap's perspective, I mean, fighting during the World War, like he knows what Hitler did. He knows all of that.
Right.
So like, I think he's instantly seeing flashbacks to like, what could somebody evil do with this device? Like,
exactly.
And target a specific group of people. Like, yeah. So I think that's sometimes lost, is that Captain America has all these life experiences that nobody in that time would have.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So Steve goes to the Smithsonian. There's some fun facts in this Smithsonian that they got wrong. But we'll start. It showed Steve Rogers' size before and after the serum.
Yes.
He was 5'4", 95 pounds, and afterwards he was 6'2", 240 pounds.
Only 6'2"?
Only 6'2". He does look much taller.
I was gonna say,
he looks like 6'4".
I did pay attention to that too, and I think I went backwards so I could make sure I got the numbers right, and I was like, really, 6'2"? That's it? I was like, I mean, 6'2" is tall, don't get me wrong, but like, I would expect him to be bigger.
Yeah, well, this makes me wonder, what is Chris Evans'
what is
his
actual
height? His
height?
Actual height is 6 foot.
Okay.
So they couldn't say 6'4".
Because then it would obviously look weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get away with a couple inches there.
Also, weird that people just have their height in Wikipedia, but whatever.
Yeah. How did they measure that? That's interesting. So when he's at the Smithsonian and stuff, is that before or after he talks to Peggy?
I think it was after.
I think it was after.
Yeah, I believe it was after, because he goes to talk to Peggy after Project Insight.
Okay.
I completely...
No, you're good. There was something there that I thought was interesting, and I had it in my notes here. You see that Peggy is like suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's or something, because she has a conversation with Cap and then realizes that she thinks he's coming back again for the first time and all this. And I'm wondering, what kind of secrets could she spill in that mental state of like not really knowing
where she's not
if
lucid
she's there or not? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, is she in a S.H.I.E.L.D. Residential facility? Is she just in any average day retirement home? Like, I don't know. I was very caught up in that for some reason, but I was like, it was a very, like, she's only in the movie for like what, maybe 3 to 4 minutes, and then they move on.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a really good point, because if she's not lucid, she would have to be in a S.H.I.E.L.D. facility. Wasn't she at the No, because that was a different scene where they were at a hospital with Fury.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Maybe
she's in the Triskelion.
And she didn't die in this movie.
No, she dies in Civil War.
That's right.
Yeah, because that's where Sharon and Steve have their kiss.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
Before he realizes that Sharon is her niece.
Yeah.
Which Carter.
Yeah. Why?
Shield.
Didn't.
I wonder.
Yeah. Well, that's jumping ahead a little bit.
So,
but yes.
Bucky Barnes.
Yes.
Timeline is messed up. The movie is called The Winter Soldier. if you read the comics, you know who that is.
Yeah.
But then they introduce Bucky Barnes. If you've never read the comics, you have no idea who the Winter Soldier is. Why would you all of a sudden introduce Bucky Barnes again into the movie if he wasn't coming back?
Yep. And why does he, out of everybody, have this big, long...
Yeah.
And I think the
he
audio
died.
recording mentions, that he's the only one that died.
Yeah.
So
it's like one of those, like, why are we talking about Bucky? So you remember that Bucky was a person in a movie at this point, what, 4 years ago, something like that?
Yeah.
So 3 years ago. So the Smithsonian says he lived from 1917 to 1944. That was on the bottom of his little plaque thing of the plate. In the beginning of that paragraph on it, it actually says, born in 1916. So born in 1916, but lived from 1917 to 1944. Okay.
He took a gap year at the beginning of his life.
The MCU confirmed that his birthday is March 10th, 1917.
Okay.
Marvel Comics' origin is 1925. Where he was born in 1925. There's actually another year in there somewhere where he was born in 1923. So they haven't figured that part out. The memorial states that 1944 is when he died, but the MCU insinuated that Bucky disappeared in 1945 because Zola mentions being captured in 1945.
Yeah.
Bucky and Zola, that was the same scene.
Yes,
where Bucky
they captured him when Bucky falls off.
So maybe the military lied to the Smithsonian on when he actually died.
Well, that piece makes the Zola Bucky Barnes connection does make some sense because when Cap first rescues him, Bucky's the one that's on the table that was getting like brainwashed. And I mentioned that when we watched Captain America, the first Avenger, whatever it was, that Bucky, that was the start of his brainwashing. And then when he fell off the train, then I think they just picked up where they left off. But Zola wouldn't have been there. He would have been with S.H.I.E.L.D. at that point. So somebody else in Hydra had to pick that up.
For what it's worth, the timeline says that Zola is captured and Bucky presumably dies January 1945. So it could have been just crosshairs. Maybe it was December 31st, something like that.
Sure.
Well, I'll excuse that a little bit.
That one makes more sense, yeah.
But in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, way later on, they celebrate his birthday on March 10th, and there's a cake that his candle says that he's 107. But if you do the math, that would mean he was born in 1916, not 1917.
Oh, boy.
So if Marvel could just figure out when Bucky was born, that would be great because they don't know when he was born.
Yep. Just have a disclaimer on the next movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just gets me because they have both dates on that plaque.
Yeah.
And then Marvel said, no, he was born in 1917, but they got the date wrong in his own TV series. So that's my deep dive on Bucky Barnes this episode.
That's interesting.
Okay, so Fury starts to realize that Project Insight is probably not as good, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is kind of hiding some stuff, so he calls Maria Hill and insists that she comes to DC immediately, and that's when he gets attacked in his car. I think this had the best quote sequence in the entire movie.
Oh, yeah.
When Fury says, give me Agent Hill, and the car just says, communications are damaged. Fury says, what's not damaged? And the car says air conditioning is fully operational.
Yep.
That was funny to me.
Oh yeah,
no, I laughed out loud.
That
every
was a
time
great
I saw this.
time. Like, despite all this distress, the car's like, oh, the air conditioning's on. It's like,
yeah,
thanks.
So either the Winter Soldier walks really, 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 really slow, or Fury can move really, really fast while being hurt. Because how did he see him and then cut a hole in the ground and escape in the time that it took the Winter Soldier to walk to his car?
Yeah, I wondered that same thing because that was pretty quick.
Doesn't make any sense at all. I don't get it.
I was also wondering, how did Hydra get a hold of that many police vehicles? I mean, they probably had at least 7 police cars,
and no police know about it.
No, and at least 1 SWAT vehicle.
Yeah,
with a barricade. So they robbed that from the police, and because the car, that's the first thing the car says. It says there's no DC. Like metro units in the area, and yet they have like 7 police cars. I was like, how did they get their hands on all this? But oh well, we'll never know. Also, why did they make it that messy when the Winter Soldier just could come in and flip the car over, and
Right.
that's that.
And where were the police at anyway?
Yeah. I mean,
If there's no police in the area, then you probably realize there's something wrong if you're the police and go, oh, let me go. Where's the military? This is DC.
Yeah, or where are the reports of like, I mean, because they were just open firing on buses, on passing cars, like, and Fury was wrecking cars. Like, you know how many casualties you had right there?
Yep.
But
it's neither here nor there.
Well, and the police, thinking ahead, the police weren't at any fight in any of this movie.
In probably the most secure capital in the world.
Police is never to be seen.
Never to be seen.
Interesting.
So Fury makes it back to Steve's apartment. That's where we find out that Sharon Carter is his neighbor and was assigned to protect him, which human being protecting super soldier.
I don't know if it was so much as protect as it
or
was
just
to
keep
keep an
eyes
eye on him because, I mean, Fury was like keeping eyes on everybody. So
yeah, that's fair. Well, her cover gets blown anyway. So Fury's nickname, or not nickname, his code name is Foxtrot. Don't know if you caught that.
Yep.
Yeah, because she says Foxtrot is down and unresponsive, need EMS. So this was interesting to me. Fury gets shot. Agent 13, Sharon Carter, gets in on the walkie-talkie, says that he's down, not shot, just he's down and unresponsive. The voice on the other end asks if there is a 20 on the shooter. No one ever said he was shot.
Yeah.
He was just down. So that kind of makes you think inside job.
Yeah. And that's a very small fact to pick up on. But yeah.
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting. I mean, later on, when you find out Fury's not dead, that he goes through all the injuries he has. But he only got shot once. So, like...
I thought he got shot multiple times.
Did he get shot? I thought he only got shot once, but...
I thought he got shot at least 3.
I know there was only one hole in the glass, so...
Maybe he did only get shot.
I don't know.
Oh, he did only get shot.
But he was talking about,
like, right in the chest.
But he was talking about, like, broken rib, laceration to his spine.
Well, you also got to think about the car accidents.
That's true. Yeah.
So all the people that were at Fury's surgery was Steve, Natasha, Maria Hill, Sitwell, and Rumlow. Of course, you can trust 3 of the 5 of those. Yep. This is where Fury, quote unquote, dies, and Natasha then says that she trusts no one anymore.
Yeah.
Which, fair. She doesn't even trust Steve because she even asks him, why was Fury at his apartment where he got shot?
Well, and Steve doesn't really trust Romanoff. Like, it's at that point, they are trusting just them. And that's it.
Which is fair because Steve said trust no one.
Right.
At this point.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, with Romanoff's past, it's plausible to think she could jump ship again. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. Anything before we get to the elevator scene?
No.
The second
I didn't have
scene.
anything before that. I thought there was something to do with the guy stalking the vending machine, but I think it must be thinking of a different movie.
Oh, no, there was the vending machine in the USB. I saw a lot of things on the internet that they were talking about how did he get it into the vending machine?
Right.
If you looked at it, I rewatched it again this morning just to double check. The guy was stalking the vending machine, so it was wide open.
Yeah. But I thought there was something like in a later movie that calls back to that guy stalking the vending machine, but I can't.
Oh.
I don't know.
I'll have to keep an eye out for it.
I don't know. I thought that he had a bigger significance, but maybe I was thinking of a different movie. But yeah.
Nope. All right. So the elevator scene, obviously, where they get into a fight. This is a call. Well, this is a in-game calls back to this about the Hail Hydra stuff. So I thought that was pretty funny in my opinion, but not funny until you see in-game because you don't realize it. But yeah, so we have this elevator fight scene. He takes out 16 people.
Oh yeah,
by himself
in a very tight space.
Yeah. So I have a couple of problems with this scene in general, other than continuity errors in the fight. But one of the handcuffs got thrown up onto the wall and then disappeared for the rest of the fight. I don't know where it went, but I'm not here to pick out continuity errors. We're talking about the timeline.
Well, I wonder, and it makes you think though, how many times did they have to take that scene to get it just right? You know what I mean? Like that would be really hard to keep continuity
in a tight
through
space.
it.
Yeah. So he cuts the cables when he realizes that soldiers are coming out of him. He drops he was on floor 25. He dropped probably 5 more floors, maybe 10 at most, which is interesting because when he jumps out, he'd jump probably 20, 30 floors, which is 25. You go down. The math is not mathing right now.
Yeah.
When he dropped and he tried to open the elevator door, how were there already soldiers coming at him when they were told to go to floor 25?
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
That didn't make sense. I was just like, wait, how are you already running on top? Like, did you just go to the elevator on every floor? Do you have that many men on every floor at all times? That didn't make any sense to me.
And also, it wasn't evident at this point that Hydra had taken over S.H.I.E.L.D. So, like, everybody just thought Cap was a bad guy, I guess. Yeah. And that's what their cover was for trying to capture him. But I don't know. I like that scene because I think the fight's really cool and stuff like that. But yeah, there are a couple of those areas where you're like, well, could have been a little better.
And then this goes to where the super soldier serum is really, really good because he jumps 20 floors and lands on his shoulder with the shield. Why did he not damage his shoulder?
Yeah. Well, and
that would hurt.
I had a thought later about that in the movie because then he gets shot. Bucky shoots him at the very end, and he looks severely injured by it. And I was like, but you just fell.
Yeah.
Like you said, 20, 30 feet and got up and ran.
Not more floors.
20, 30 floors. Yes, 20, 30
so
floors.
Several hundred feet.
And I'm like, but you got up and ran. And he survives the drone strike at Camp Lehigh or wherever.
I have my own comments about that one too.
But then a gunshot, and a gunshot to the gut is very serious. But if you have the super soldier serum, then I don't know. It didn't make much sense. But I also thought it was interesting. I thought one of the big guys at the very end that got in the elevator looked like Andrew Whitworth. But I couldn't find if it was actually him or not. But it looked like he's only there for a brief second. And I was like, that kind of looks like Andrew Whitworth. But
for all of you not football people, he's a football player.
It's a fair point. I should have known that. But yeah. But I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if he was in that movie because who's in Infinity War? Or no, in Endgame, it's fantasy football talk guy. I can't think of his name, but we'll get there.
Eric Berry? No.
Matthew Berry.
Matthew Berry.
Yes, Matthew Berry is in Endgame.
Is he?
Yeah, he's one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents that are walking Loki out when they go back.
Oh.
And then...
I remember him talking about that now.
Yeah. He's got one line.
Yeah, he loved being part of that.
Yeah, but I was like, well, it would make sense if they just had people in that, but I couldn't find any information to confirm that or not. So
how did Cap take out a ship with just a shield? A flying hovercraft shooting at him?
That was pretty interesting.
And not get hit at all by any of the bullets?
Yeah.
Do they suck that much at shooting people? Yeah, that really bothered me. We were watching the movie the first time, and he just threw his shield. I'm like, this makes no sense.
Well, and I don't know. The shield can't be sharp because he catches it on the edge. So it's not sharp, but yet it's, I don't know, made of vibranium, I guess.
Yep.
That'll do it. But I do want to go back on something I said in the first Captain America movie where I said he doesn't have that big of athletic stunts in the rest of the movies. This one kind of made me walk that back a little bit because there were a couple times where he did some
quite a bit
things and I was like, okay. But it's the movies where he's with the rest of the superheroes where it's he don't do that much. Because Avengers, he didn't
outshine.
Yeah, Avengers, he didn't have that many.
He stayed on the ground the entire time.
Exactly. Yeah. But this movie, he's jumping over, jumping up into ships, jumping out of ships.
Spy movie.
Yeah. So
that's all I can note.
Yeah. So it must just be the Captain America movies where he really gets to shine.
Yeah.
So
he goes back to the hospital to get the USB to figure out what's on the USB. Natasha has it already.
Yep.
This is where they're starting to trust each other. They go to the mall, to the Apple store to figure this out. This is why I said it comes back later. I wrote this down because MacBooks today don't have USB ports, but in 2014 they did.
Okay.
imagine going to an Apple store right now with a USB going, oh crap, I don't have an adapter.
Yes, and they're like, that'll be $75.
$29 for the USB adapter or $69 for the
Right.
multi-port adapter. But yeah, I was just like, imagine that being today. Like they wouldn't be able to do that. They'd have to go to a different store or like steal an adapter or something.
And like the computers are that open to where you can just like boot up the program.
And already had the software, already had everything on it.
Yep.
So I thought that was interesting.
It's another IT moment. Yeah.
We're nerds. So they find that they need to go to New Jersey because they're going on their quote unquote honeymoon to New Jersey. Captain realizes that the ammunition building and the barracks are too close to each other, so it's out of place. So they go there. Okay, because this is where he was trained. In the military. They go down, and I'm going to say this now. They go down several floors under the barracks or the ammunition building, whichever building they're in. They go down several floors into it like a bunker. Remember that. They go down quite a bit.
Yep.
So they find the computer room, which turns out to be like Zola's brain practically. And while it's booting up, Black Widow says, "Shall we play a game?" And it's like, War Games is old, or actually no, she didn't even say War Games. I had to look that one up, but she's like, "Oh, it's an old movie," and Steve's just like, "I know, I saw it." Like, oh, he's really catching up on his.
Yes.
Now, if I really think if they wanted to tie that back, War Games should have been on his notebook, crossed out.
Yep.
If you really like wanted to tie those together, that would have been really funny.
That would have been good.
So Zola explains that Hydra grew inside of S.H.I.E.L.D., starting with him, and is basically taking over S.H.I.E.L.D., knows everybody's names. This is the first time we actually see Natasha's actual full name, not just Natasha Romanoff. And then Zola tells Cap and Widow that he was captured in 1945 when Bucky should have died.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, in this point, I think they're also trying to figure out who the Winter Soldier is, or like who shot Nick Fury. And Black Widow's like, I've heard of this guy, and I know he's real, but people think he's a ghost.
Yeah, because she's dealt with him before because she's been shot by him before.
Yep.
And still has the scar to say it. And this is where it kind of got a little. I was like, oh, are they having a romantic relationship now? Because he was like, oh yeah, I bet you look terrible in a bikini now. And I'm like,
yeah,
Steve.
Yep. And then the kiss, and then
I'm like, Steve, you got a little crush here.
Well, there was a comment she made. Oh, when they're driving to the camp in the truck, and she's like, I'm a lot of things for a lot of people. What do you want me to be for you? And he was like, just a friend. He was like, that's all I need right now, just a friend. And the whole time she's trying to set him up with different women and stuff like that. So it set it up to be that way, and then it didn't in the end. But yeah, it was interesting.
It was interesting. She has that kind of relationship with a lot.
She does.
Several people.
Yeah.
Including there was a will they won't they moment in Age of Ultron with her and Bruce Banner as well.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yeah, that one's always been
really weird.
But
so okay, drone strike to the bunker. Everything explodes. How did they all of a sudden end up at
the top?
At the top.
Yeah.
Without being like completely crushed and trapped.
Yeah, especially when they went down several floors. And then when everything's said and done, he just pops a piece off and they're at the top. And when they were pulling up to the base, it looked like there was some residential around it. Like it looked like there was at least apartments or something. But then that drone strike looked like it wiped out, for miles. So I don't know about
continuity.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was all dark too. Did you notice that after the drone strike, it was like
it was
dark out.
Yeah, it was
But when they could have been there, it was light.
It was like dusk.
Eh.
When they were walking around the base, it was kind of getting dark.
Okay.
But
they weren't in there like
they weren't in there for that long.
They were in there for like maybe 5-10 minutes. Not enough for it to go like that dark where S.H.I.E.L.D. helicopters and Quinjets, you can see the strobe light. I don't know. That one was a little suspect, but
yeah. So from here we go to Pierce's house.
Yep.
Senator Pierce? I think he's Senator.
Yeah, I think
Pierce.
it's Senator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Winter Soldier is there, and then that's when you find out that they are actually working together, and Pierce is Hydra. Interesting in here, I didn't write this down, but there was a condiment bottle in there that is actually the person that plays Pierce is actually like best friends with the owner of that condiment.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was a nice little play there.
Yeah.
The guy, God, who plays Pierce? I can't remember. I didn't write his name down.
Yeah,
Like an idiot.
I can't remember.
There's actually in the comics, one of the Captain America comics. Wow. In one of the Captain America comics, Captain America is jumping off of cars, and somebody says, "Oh, that must be so and so," who is actually playing Director Pierce or Senator Pierce.
Oh, okay.
So if I can Google quick enough here and figure out who Pierce was, where is he at?
Yeah, I didn't recognize him.
Robert
from anything
Redford.
else,
So Robert Redford was the actual person is who plays Pierce. In the comics, when Captain's jumping from a bystander is like, "Oh, that must be Robert Redford." I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, now I'm trying to find out who his friend was, but anyways, thought it was interesting at least. Okay, so we're there. We find out that his Winter Soldier's new mission is to kill Natasha and Steve.
Yep.
And Steve finally tells Natasha that he trusts her. I keep wanting to say Natalie, Natasha, Black Widow. They're all the same people. So.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay, so we're outside of one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. buildings, or one of the government buildings.
Yeah.
Where Sitwell and Senator Stern are talking. They both say Hail Hydra to each other, so we find out, of course, Senator Stern is Hydra.
Yeah, that one made total sense.
Duh. So Sitwell gets a call from, it says Senator Pierce on there. Turns out it's actually Sam, and says, "Meet me in the car over here. Otherwise, I think that Ty wouldn't look too good being shot." And then that's where we find them on the building. Sitwell, Black Widow, Captain America are all on top of this building. They're trying to get information out of Sitwell. God, so many people.
Yeah,
in this
there's a lot of
movie
people in this one.
Is trying to get information out of Sitwell. Sitwell won't talk. He basically says, "You're not going to kick me off this building, Cap. Like, come on, that's not your style." Black Widow doesn't say it, and that's where the Falcon comes, brings them back up, and Sitwell just literally blabs everything.
Which, at that point, they weren't going to kill you because they kicked you off the roof and then saved you. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why he's talking now is beside the point, but
yeah.
Oh well. I did think it was interesting. He mentioned, like, Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange, like, he called out very specifically, and Stephen Strange, who isn't even
not even in here yet.
Anything about him yet.
Yeah,
and
that was a Easter egg right there.
Yeah, and I was trying to think in the timeline if he would have already been a Master of the Arts, or
no.
Okay,
no, because if you remember Avengers, he was not even known because
the ancient
one said you're like 3 years too early to meet with him.
Yeah.
So he has not been in his accident yet. I have this all in the timeline.
So that's even more strange that they say his name when he hasn't even become what he is to become yet.
Unless they know.
Well, but they do say the algorithm helps predict what people are going to become and eliminate future threats to Hydra. So maybe they're like, that's super weird. This
really, really good doctor is
going to be a threat to Hydra. But like, I don't know. How could an algorithm predict that he's going to get in a wreck that's going to send him to? How could an
algorithm predict that a 2-year-old is going to become a terrorist?
No, bringing that up at that point, I was like, I like the Easter egg, but like, you got to make it make sense. And at that point, it didn't make sense. So I gotta check my timeline now because because that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, you can mention it, but you don't know what he's going to become yet because he hasn't been in the accident yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So Doctor Strange doesn't get in a car accident until February 2016.
Yeah.
So this is a year and a half before that even happened. So he's just a doctor at this point. So
that's weird. But oh well, I get it. You know, you're teasing things to come. But
yeah,
you got to make it make
sense.
sense.
But if nobody even catches it, like you don't pick up on that until after you've seen Doctor Strange.
Yep, exactly.
So
unless you read the comic books and then you would know. But yeah.
But the average everyday person doesn't.
Yep.
So they get him in a car. They're heading somewhere, and this is where another Winter Soldier fight happens. Sitwell gets pulled out of the car and thrown in front of a truck.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Sitwell dead.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I hated Sitwell. I don't know why I hated Sitwell. He just annoyed me.
You could tell from the beginning he was a little shady. Like that he wasn't necessarily a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. But...
You could tell in maybe not in The Consultant, but
definitely Item 47. You could tell he was a little little off, and then in these last couple.
And then the beginning of this movie, you're like, he's definitely off.
Why is he on a boat, a high-ranking S.H.I.E.L.D. officer, in the boat in the middle of an Indian Ocean? But,
exactly,
and that's what kind of clues Cap into because they make reference to it later. Like, why was Sitwell on the boat? Well, it's because he was uploading the algorithm.
So my wife and I during this fight we had the same comment at the literally exact same time when that big gun was shooting at Cap. Why does everybody aim for his shield?
Yeah.
Why not aim for his ankles?
Right.
Or knees or something else? It just kept bouncing off his... If he's coming closer and closer to you, you think you'd go, oh, hold on, down.
Yeah.
Take out his ankles.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me.
You take away his one thing then, I guess, if you do that. But
it's fight scenes that just don't make sense in the series.
And I would love to get the science on this, but when he almost deflects the bullets back with his shield, I was like, I don't think that's how that works.
That's not how that works.
It works in Star Wars.
Ricocheting, okay, but you have to be really good at that.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, so they get into the fight. There's this big drawn-out fight. Everybody gets hurt, pretty much. Yeah. They all get arrested. They're taken by Rumlow and everybody, who then says, like, dig 3 graves. We're going to bury them here.
Well, one guy wanted to just shoot him straight up, and then you see the news chopper, and you're like, I can't do that here.
Yeah. So they're basically going to kill him. Maria saves the day, breaks them out. Yep. They also get a hole out of the bottom of this shit. Everything's cutting a hole. What is this tool that's just cutting everything into the ground?
That sense, how was it not noticeable?
If
how
you're
loud is that?
Well, how loud is it? If you're in the middle of driving when you escape, how does none of the other vehicles realize, they got out? Because there was no hole under that ground. Right. It was just a lot of issues.
And how do you not get ran over? If you're going out underneath the truck. Yeah. I don't
know. We find out that Fury is actually alive, which is good. And that's where they start to come up with the mission on how to get everything back here.
Yep.
And take everything out. Stan Lee appearance.
Yes.
What's he doing?
Oh, I'm blanking on this one.
Oh, no. I even put it in the timeline.
I know. This is the part where... Oh, what was he doing?
He's a security guard in the Smithsonian.
That's right, because then he sees that the suit's been stolen.
Yeah, Steve steals his suit, and he's like, oh, no, oh, man, I am so fired.
Yeah. Yes. So, okay. That's
good.
That one was. Yeah.
There's some interesting stuff about Stan Lee's appearances that will come up in Guardians 2, our Guardians 2 episode. Yes. So stick around for that 2 more weeks from now.
I know exactly where that one is.
Yes.
I did think it was interesting their conversation with Fury when they're trying to come up with a plan. Fury's like, we need to save one, meaning like he wanted one helicarrier intact or salvage what they could, and Cap's like, no,
we're taking
it all down.
Yep.
So
that's fair.
Yeah.
So they get into S.H.I.E.L.D., which if you have a warrant for your arrest, how do you just break into S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah.
S.H.I.E.L.D. basically tells everybody in the building that Hydra's infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. Don't trust anyone. Specifically calls out Pierce and the strike team, including Rumlow. Rumlow literally walks right in and was like, fire the ships. And everybody's just like, what? No, absolutely not. They get into a big gun battle. Rumlow does fire the ships himself, which I'm no scientist, but like, shouldn't there be like sequences for that?
Yeah.
Like, and security measures for who's allowed to fire those ships off.
You would
Rumlow just
think,
goes
yeah.
in and like click, click, click. Also, all the computer monitors were glass, and it looked like there was a lot of gunfire. How did that survive the gunfire?
Well, and he was prepared to shoot the guy at the station, which would have, the bullet would have surely gone through the guy's head and then ruined the station.
Depending on the angle.
Yeah. I was just like, if you're prepared
I'm
to
super
shoot that
confused
guy,
by that.
like, you're going to wreck the one. And how, out of all the stations in the room, that's the one station you could launch it from?
Right.
Like, what's everybody
Right.
else doing then?
Right.
I don't know. Movie stuff.
Movies. Natasha was actually acting as one of the Security Council people. That's how she infiltrated Pierce's
Which
meeting.
they never say what happens to the lady she impersonated.
No, unless there was no lady, and it was always her.
No.
Or they put her in a closet.
I don't know. I was just thinking, you never find
Because
out.
I would assume that Natasha came in as her from the get-go,
Oh, yeah.
and they gave her the pin, and they were expecting her.
But I'm saying, like, the rest of the time that lady's been on the Security Council, it's been that lady. It's not been Natasha. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they did with that lady. But
This is where I come into the problem of villains not being villains, or they're being bad villains, because why would you not just go ahead and shock Natasha also and just make sure that your plan goes smoothly? No, let's save her and tell her my plan.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like,
it's every villain to a T. They have to have their monologue. If they don't have their monologue, then they're not a true villain. So he needed his 15 seconds to say what he was going to do.
And then so they're talking about, or Natasha ends up trying to release everything. They need the 2 security points. One was Pierce, one was Fury. Pierce says, "We removed all your stuff." And then all of a sudden, like, but Fury's just like, "Well, you didn't remove my eye," and then pulls up his patch. And I'm like, what kind of security does S.H.I.E.L.D/Hydra have?
Yeah.
That doesn't remove all forms of factoring. Like, 2-factor is 2-factor, but like, why don't you remove all of it?
Well, it makes me wonder if Fury had set up like a back door
Yeah.
to where his eye that's always in an eye patch.
And that's
they
what
never
I've
knew about.
Yeah, and that's what I've read a lot on the internet, because the internet also wants to know the same thing about that. And they said that, I mean, Fury is shady. He's got his secret stuff going on everywhere, so it makes sense that he would have a backdoor for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so we're now trying to take down the three helicarriers. In the fight with Bucky Barnes, and he's got one of the chips in his hands. Why not just crush the chip?
Yeah.
And like in the fight, like, how did the chip survive?
Yeah.
And if Captain pulled out the bad chip to put the good chip in, how could they fire without the bad chip in there?
Yeah. Well, they're missing the one chip.
Can't you just take the one chip out and
then it's
call it a day?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of that where I'm like, you made this too complicated. Like, you had 40,000, and how did they know which one chip to pull, or could they pull any chip? Because like there was like rows and rows.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
that was like, I was like, you made that too complicated.
Yeah.
Have one chip and that's it.
So they start with they're about to fire this off. They highlight all their targets. There's like a baseball coach, like a youth baseball coach. The White House is on a target. Stark Tower, where Iron Man is at, is a target. Yep. Also, where's Iron Man at during this point?
Yep.
I mean, I guess he's in New York.
New York.
That's fair.
Yeah. But he's heavily involved in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. So those were a couple of the targets there. Pierce ends up getting shot dead, which was interesting. Who ends up shooting Pierce?
Fury.
Fury shoots Pierce.
Yeah.
That's right. Interesting. They were best friends.
Yeah.
So the helicarrier ends up going down. Spoiler alert. They do end up getting everything down. Bucky actually pulls Steve out because I think he finally beat it into his head that you're somebody different.
Mm-hmm.
So That was kind of cool to see. Where did his shield go?
Bottom
Because
of
it just
river.
bottom of the Potomac, yeah. But like, it's just there for the next movie that he's in Age of Ultron. He just has it again.
Yeah.
Did they really find it that quickly when they're supposed to be on the run?
I don't know, because I was also under the impression that he has this one shield,
Yeah,
and that's it. Because like
that's all the vibranium that shield has.
Yeah. I don't know. And who came and rescued Cap? You don't see. You assume.
Well, he was
it's
just
Fury,
like
but-
laying on the side. I mean, he probably came to at some point.
Yeah.
And he's a super soldier. They regenerate.
Yeah.
Probably just woke up and was like, oh,
I
okay.
need to find my shield.
Yeah, probably. Like literally just need to find my shield at this point. So Sam is actually in Steve's waiting room.
Yeah.
So, oh wait, no,
See,
that's where he wakes up.
That's where I was like, so who came and rescued him?
Somebody had to find him.
Yeah.
Sam found
And
him.
why does a super soldier need standard medication? Like if he
Yeah, when he
regenerates,
just
on his
regenerates.
own, why does he need to be in a hospital? Like,
To
presumably he will
Make
be
sure
fine
he's not
eventually.
dead. I mean, it's kind of like Blonsky had to be in the hospital, but he
Right,
like
but he's there for, like,
regenerated
2
very quick.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Steve was there for like 2 seconds.
Well, we don't know that.
We don't know that. But he woke up.
Yeah.
Did you notice what they were listening to?
Oh, I did, but then I can't remember it now.
They were listening to Marvin Gaye.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I thought it was Marvin Gaye, but
Yeah. I thought it was funny.
Yep.
I also think it's no, wrong thing. Not even going to say that. So when Steve wakes up, I thought it was funny that he wakes up and says, "On your left."
Yep.
And that's when Sam was like, "Oh my God, you're alive." So Agent Carter joins the CIA at the end of this. Rumlow lives, but is very, very severely burned,
Yeah.
which we see in Civil War later on. Yeah, Fury burns all the stuff and then goes on the run. They show his tombstone.
which, if you're paying attention to modern Marvel stuff in the trailer of Secret Wars, it looks like he goes to that little
The gravesite.
bunker thing. Well, yeah, the gravesite, but that little bunker thing that he supposedly burned.
Oh.
It kind of looked like that. It might be something different, but it
We'll
was
have to
very
see.
similar to that.
Yeah, we'll have to see June 21st.
Yep.
Secret Wars. No, not Secret Wars.
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion.
Yep.
You said Secret Wars.
I said Secret Wars. I meant
Oh
Secret
my
Invasion.
God.
We got a long ways for Secret
Yeah.
Wars.
Yeah, we do. And then at the very end, Natasha gives Steve info about Bucky and like the whole Winter Soldier program and everything because, well, she got it out. Oh, Fury is heading to Europe and asks them to come, but they both turn it down.
Yeah.
Which I'm trying to think. He goes to Europe. When is he in the next movie? He's not in Civil War. Because he's on the run still at that point. I don't think
Age of Ultron. He's not in.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay, so post credits. First post credit is a group working on the scepter from the Avengers. This leads to the Age of Ultron. Introduces the twins, which is Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch.
Yep.
Or yeah,
Wanda.
There we go. I was drawing a blank.
Yep.
The second post-credit scene is Bucky reading about himself in the Smithsonian. Now, question. Metal arm, metal detectors in the Smithsonian.
Yes.
How did Bucky get in the Smithsonian?
That's a great question.
Because at this point, I would assume most of DC is like, there's this guy with a metal arm just killing people on the streets of Washington, D.C. Be on the lookout. How did he get in there?
I don't know. Great question.
And that's how we're going to wrap up this episode with that question. So if you know how Bucky got into the Smithsonian,
Well,
please
I mean,
let us know in the
There's nothing
comments.
saying he came in the traditional way.
Maybe you broke in.
Maybe he broke in. But he broke in during broad daylight. So
Stanley let him in.
probably.
Yeah. All right. Well, I thought this was actually a really good movie.
Yeah, I
Second
like this
thought,
one.
this was actually a really good movie. I did like it. This is probably my favorite Captain America movie now.
Yeah, because it's the last one. Well, it's hard to argue that this one is even about Captain America. Like Like the first Captain America movie was about Captain America.
This one is more about S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right, and then Civil War is more about the beef,
the
superheroes.
Accords.
Yeah,
This one was more of a if Black Widow could have her own movie.
sure.
This is it with co-star Steve Rogers.
Yeah,
but I feel like this was like we're gonna test out this Black Widow thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can she do her own type of movie? Because a lot of this was Black Widow. This was a Black Widow Captain America movie, which I feel like we don't see often where you have the two superheroes. This is their movie. I guess Captain Marvel was Captain Marvel and Nick Fury, but it was mostly Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Iron Man is literally just Iron Man. The Incredible Hulk is just the Hulk. Thor is just Thor. This is the first movie post the Avengers where they actually have two of your superheroes.
Yeah.
Unless you count Iron Patriot and Iron Man 3, but I don't.
Yeah. Your A-list superheroes.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap up this week. Next week, we are going to cover the Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you do not follow us on social media, that's at Timeline Rewatch. You can get us anywhere you can find a podcast at this point. And if you have not already, check out our website, timelinerewatch.com, where we're going to have all these recaps, the YouTube videos, any of the Marvel trailers that come out, any theories or news that we can find or think about. We'll put theories on there. And then, just check out the website, guys. But until next week, have a good one.